Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Grindstone Developments Truck Series, live tonight at none other than the famous Darlington Raceway, nicknamed the Lady in Black. But tonight, the drivers are going to race under the light of the day in the second to final race before the championship. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Qualifying is complete. Drivers are getting gridded up, so before we get into anything else, let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. The man that will sit on the pole inside of the front row, none other than Brandon Cooper. Came so close to getting the job done and winning last week, but late race drama, he was not able to get the job done. Noah Jackson will roll off second tonight. Good to see him making a return to the field after taking a break last week. Back in row number 2, it's going to be Harley Barletta starting third alongside Toby Ritters to his outside in fourth. James Harris will roll off fifth here tonight. It's going to be John Leggard to his outside in sixth. Back in the seventh spot will be the 48 of George Young. Wesley Shaw rolls off eighth with Tyler Meeks in ninth and Bryce Rayner rounding out your top 10. Ryan Lorenzo currently is going to start tonight in the 11th spot. Jason Nethery, he will roll off from 12th. Back in 13th is Chris Logan with Charles Whitehead rounding out the field tonight. He will start in 14th. Looking at your race info again, it is the Darlington 116. We're going to run 85 laps here tonight. Darlington Raceway just under a mile and a half in length, so that'll break down to 116 miles. 100% fuel in the gas tank here tonight. 2 sets of tires as always. You do have that one fast repair, fixed setups, and 2 green-white checkers if we were to need them. Again, I mentioned it is daytime, 77 degrees out in the sim right now. Track temp, though, currently sitting at 93, so not too warm. Don't think grip will be any more of an issue than what it normally is at this place. Cloudy skies, winds calm, not going to be a factor. All right, time to go racing for the second to last time this season. Darlington Raceway, big opportunity for a lot of drivers and a big opportunity for Bryce Rayner. Here we go. Green flag in the air. We are underway at Darlington. Field nice and neat through turn 1 and 2, and the man that comes out in front off of turn 2 is Noah Jackson. Started in second, but was able to utilize that outside line on the restart and quickly single filing out here through the rest of the field. Wesley Shaw looking for a run here. Can he take it to the inside of the 48 of George Young? Nothing doing there. He'll get back in line, and first lap is going to go to the Chili's machine. Noah Jackson leads lap number 1. But everybody else still generally with the leaders. Now, Bryce Rayner, I believe he missed the start, so he is sitting all the way back in that 14th position. Actually, he started 10th, so this may have been a separate issue as Bryce Rayner in a different number and paint scheme here tonight than what we're used to seeing. Let's back this all the way up here to the first lap of this race. Did he start from the pits, or did he have a separate issue? No, he started from the pits, so that was what it was for Bryce Rayner, and that is a tough break for him because, again, he needs a good run here tonight. Back up front, though, Noah Jackson already has that lead up to almost a second over Brandon Cooper. Hopping on board here with Brandon Cooper. Darlington, such a tough racetrack. Really, to me, it runs like a mile and a half, but it's almost as technical as when you go to a short track. There is so much that you have to get right here, and if you mess up even the slightest, you're going to go into the outside wall. You hear a lot of people note the famous Darlington stripe. Very common to get one here, especially through turn 1 and 2, where it's really only a one-groove kind of corner. And you'll see that right here. You saw with Noah Jackson, you enter in low, let the truck kind of work up to the outside wall, and then you got to make sure you arc it down for the exit of the corner. There's a little bump, makes it a little sketchy. You see how he has to turn the wheel back to the right. Brandon Cooper able to hang on before they get down here to 3 and 4. That's where things are a little bit slow on the racetrack. A little bit less banking and a little bit less of a radius of that corner, so you can't quite run as much throttle, but it's a better passing opportunity than what you get over here in turn 1 and 2. Further back, still no battling for position just yet. The last man in this lead group is Brian Lorenzo. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing that last name wrong, but for Brian, nonetheless, the driver out of the Bronx, New York, is currently sitting in that 11th spot, and I believe this is his first start of the season. So good run for him so far in that number 5 Toyota Tundra. We'll see what he can do the rest of this race. Chris Logan sitting back in that 14th spot. Rayner will go around him as Logan pulls off track momentarily. Now back up front here for Noah Jackson. Again, he is not one of the drivers running for a points championship, so his story for the night is going to be all about trying to get the win and see if he can get a trophy. Came so close at Kentucky, but fortunately, pit strategy didn't play in his favor, so it wasn't able to work out there. A little bit of a battle now setting up here between the 3 truck, Toby Ritters, the 31 of Harley Barletta, and then just behind them right now, your championship points leader, the 55 of James Harris. Boy, the one thing he cannot afford to have happen is get tangled up in someone else's mess tonight or next week. I want to tell you about what the points situation looks like. Again, James Harris leads the points. Just hold on just a minute. Trouble out in front of him. They're going to bang doors. Harley Barletta had to cover the move from the 55. I think Harris was thinking 3 wide, thought a little bit better of it. But man, that was exactly what I just said cannot happen. If you're the 55 of James Harris, you have got to make a decision. Let these two sort it out way ahead of you, or get around them and let them sort it out behind you. If they end up wrecking and that 55 truck gets collected, that could be the opportunity Bryce Rayner needs to try to jump a position in the point standings. Harris with another big run here. This time he is going to take the run to the inside. Barletta not going to be able to cover. He set that run up perfect, and that's the really only passing opportunity you get from about the front stretch to about turn 3, is if you can get that big arc off of turn 2, get a better run, and pass the guy going down the backstretch. So a really nice move right there from James Harris. Now moves him up to that 4th spot. He'll chase after Toby Ritters, but again, Harris currently leads in the point standings. He's got 367 points coming into this race tonight. That puts him 10 points ahead of Bryce Rayner, who had 357 points coming into this race tonight. So they're separated by 10 total positions through these next 2 races. So if you do the math there for James Harris, really about an average finish of 4th, maybe a 4th and a 5th, would keep him in line, even if Bryce Rayner won both of these races, to finish as your points champion. But if he gets in a wreck, somehow falls back into the clutches of maybe 10th on back, if Bryce Rayner comes up here and wins the race, then all of a sudden, we could be talking about a really close points battle going into the final race next week at Atlanta. And by the way, quick note on that. Initially, we talked about this season, the championship race being at New Atlanta, also known as Echo Park Speedway. That is not the case. We got confirmation from admin James Harris that the race will actually be at Old Atlanta. So maybe a little bit of the excitement broadcasting-wise going to be taken out of it there, but certainly a much better track to have a championship decided at, as things are a lot more in the driver's control, to put it one way. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You're watching the Grindstone Developments Truck Series live from Darlington Raceway in the second to last race of the season. And we do have a driver cam here tonight, and it is none other than the man currently sitting back in 12th. And as surprising as it is, it's because he missed the start. The 87 of Bryce Rayner, currently down 2 positions from where he started this race at after missing the grid. So for Bryce Rayner, again, going to really need a good finish tonight, and really kind of needs James Harris to have a bad finish. And I'm looking at the way it's running. If James Harris finished 4th and Rayner got up there and won this race, that would be 3 or 4 points that he could pick up on Harris. That would be significant. But man, without a caution, I just don't see any way that Bryce Rayner is going to get all the way to the front of this field in just an 85-lap long race. And we've already clicked off 13. As we take a look now at Charles Whitehead, currently in 13th, last man on the lead lap. Chris Logan has fallen at 2 laps down. Not sure what the issue was there for the 70. Again, he currently sits 2 laps down at the moment. The big cluster of cars, though, is from about 3rd back to 8th. Not necessarily right bumper to bumper, but James Harris here is trying to close up on the back of the 3 Toby Ritters, who I just cannot stop talking enough about. The job he's done really the last couple of weeks. I mean, I would call it an average season. Toby's always been one of the guys that has consistency, but the last 3 weeks, it just has felt like he found something a little bit extra. At Richmond, he almost gets the win off a tire strategy, can't quite make it happen. Here he is again tonight at Darlington, one of the toughest tracks on the schedule, and he is sitting on the podium right now, up a spot from where he qualified at. So we'll see if he can hold on here until we get to that first and only round of green flag pit stops. And at 100% fuel at this track, these guys can make it pretty far. I would say they maybe go till, man, if I had to guess, maybe somewhere between 40 to 50 laps. I think more so towards that 50-lap marker so that you can make it that one stopper before you go in for 4 tires and fill it up with fuel. Noah Jackson, though, continues to lead out in front. The number 20 ride the Dente Chili Chevy Silverado. Boy, he's been a story so far here tonight. He's got the gap up to a 1.5 seconds over Brandon Cooper. We really haven't talked a lot about Brandon so far tonight, but boy, we were calling his number a lot last week. Wasn't quite able to get the win, but he was involved in some post-race drama, really in-race drama too, with the 99 of Bryce Rayner and the 55 of Harris. And I can tell you just from listening to a little bit of post-race chatter between all the drivers that for at least Harris and Rayner, they felt like the 54 was a little too aggressive. Brandon Cooper popped in the interview booth when we got to talk to him last week and said, listen, I'm out here to win races. I went and did what I needed to do to win the race. I didn't get into anybody intentionally. I wasn't out there trying to be overly aggressive, but I was trying to win the race. And those disagreements carried on again a little bit post-race, but seems like everybody was able to get things sorted out. Good to see Brandon back in the field here tonight. We'll see if there's any sort of, I don't want to call it payback, but any sort of hard feelings still left over for the 55 of James Harris if they end up getting racy with each other later on. James Harris still trying to close up here to the back bumper of Toby Ritters. And for Harris running a little bit of that lower lane. We've seen a couple different grooves here through 3 and 4 so far tonight. Again, 1 and 2 is kind of a one groove set of corners. Now, I think if you are James Harris, the one thing you do try to do is keep your nose just a little bit lower, especially on entry, which you saw him doing right there, so you can get a little bit more downforce and try to make that corner just a slight bit faster than the truck in front. Toby Ritters, though, again, not making very many mistakes right now, so he's making it tough on Harris to make the pass. Ritters also running that top line through 3 and 4. Harris glued to the bottom, so we'll keep an eye on those two. Harley Barletta still hanging around as Tyler Meeks currently in 6th. One of your bigger movers in the field. He's up 3 spots from where he started this race. As for Brian Lorenzo, he is another one of your big movers in the field. He is currently up 4 positions from where he started this race at. Good to see John Legger back in the field tonight after missing a few races. The number 19 currently down a couple spots from where he started this race at, but the driver out of Boston, Massachusetts, and still has a very solid top 10 run going here at the moment. Bryce Rayner has now made it back up inside the top 10, so he's still on the move in that Team Conti Chevy Silverado, but he's got a lot of work to do. And I think that his best friend right now would likely be a caution, although I don't know if we're going to necessarily see one here tonight. Seems like the field got separated pretty quickly, and once they did, it just really narrows out that chance for a caution with everybody running single file. But as we get late into this run, tires will wear out. You never know, maybe somebody has a spin that draws the caution. Something we'll certainly keep an eye on as we're going to go on board now with Noah Jackson. And this onboard view is about as cool as you can get. Look how close he gets to that outside safer barrier going off of turn 2. This is, to me, the sketchiest point on the racetrack. I know how close they get to the wall, but when you're coming off of turn 2, you're just hoping the back tires don't give out and you got to try to save the truck. You put the throttle down and you try to keep it planted to the floor. 3 and 4 always seemed a lot more manageable to me. Again, Darlington's certainly a tough track, and for Noah Jackson, saw the hands there just a little bit, starting to work a little bit more. Tells me that the handling of that truck could be starting to swing towards the looser side of things. And if that is the case, we'll have to see if Noah Jackson starts to fade off here, because Brandon Cooper has been slowly reeling him in now. He's got that gap down to just under a second between him and Noah Jackson. And you can see that gap really closed up about 4 laps ago and then has been slowly closing in even more since then. But it looks like that last lap, Noah Jackson was once again a little bit faster. So at the moment, these two continuing to trade lap times. By the way, we'll talk more about what the schedule will look like next season, but the big announcement is that it will not be the Grindstone Developments Truck Series next season. Instead, it will be the Grindstone Developments Late Model Series, assuming that the title sponsor is staying on board with these guys for yet another season. And so something a little different. They also announced that they will be removing the 5,000 iRating cap, so if you're interested in joining the Grindstone Developments Truck Series, there is no longer a restriction. Make sure you check it out next season. And the Late Model Series going to be, again, really all technical tracks. I mean, you look at the schedule, and again, I'll actually show you those tracks later here tonight, but it's going to certainly favor to the guys like Bryce Rayner, James Harris, Toby Ritters, Noah Jackson, really everybody that I see in this race tonight has a pretty good strength for those kind of racetracks. And if there's a few that don't feel like it is to their strong suit, well, they're going to have to figure it out pretty quick because it is all short tracks next season. So certainly looking forward to what these guys are going to put in store for us then. The 5 of Brian Lorenzo now up another spot as there's the caution. Bryce Rayner needed it, and he's going to get it. The 34 of Jason Nethery with trouble on the backstretch. And that has got to feel like a huge relief for the driver of the 87 here tonight. Bryce Rayner is going to have a shot at this thing. Boy, I think James Harris has got to be saying, you are kidding me. And for Jason Nethery here, trying to see if there's any damage to his truck. I don't see any. We didn't get any major reports of a huge incident here. So you wonder if it was a harmless spin or slide. Let's go back and look at it here. Coming off the corner on the outside, that's actually the 52 of Wesley Shaw. You could tell he was way up the racetrack just from that angle. So here we go. This is the blimp cam. And as they come off the corner, yeah, Wesley's up the track, gets into the wall, and just nowhere for Nethery to go. Chris Logan with some contact as well. Saw the 34 there tag the outside wall. So certainly an interesting incident there. Everybody kind of gathered it up. I would say Logan or Shaw get the worst of this, but for Shaw here, you know, I said it's a one groove corner, and this is why. I'll go to the cockpit view here. If you make one mistake, your whole corner's messed up, and sometimes it's a little bit more than that. And for Wesley Shaw here, he was already in the wall. So maybe some sort of technical issue, but then tries to get out of the way. The truck's just chasing up the track, and once he hits the wall, bounces off. There's just nothing Nethery can do. And then Chris Logan actually gets into the back of Wesley there. Pretty significant for him as well. Wouldn't be too shocked if it crumpled up the front of... Oh, yeah. Pretty heavy damage, actually, for the 70 of Chris Logan here, as we'll give you another angle of this. Again, coming off of the corner here. And watch the 2 up front there. You see the 52? Contact. Nethery nowhere to go, and bam! There's the bigger hit for the 70 of Chris Logan. And I think it brings out the caution here, mainly because the 34 gets sideways enough that iRacing is going to call it a spin. He actually kind of is able to gather it up here after the initial contact with the wall, but certainly a valid caution right there. And a 3-truck incident, and a rare one at that here tonight at Darlington, has completely shaken up what to expect for the rest of this race. As we go back live now, Toby Ritter's being scored as your race leader. Brandon Cooper 2nd, Noah Jackson 3rd, James Harris 4th, Tyler Meeks in 5th. Let's go and see, though, how this pit sequence cycled out to see how we got to where we are with who is the current race leader. And so Noah Jackson, oh man, that's a mistake. You cannot let that happen. Does he try to make a late pit stop? Boy, it looks like that's what it was. Noah Jackson here, you see he's way out in front of the field. Actually, a couple drivers here going a little bit sooner, but for Jackson here, let's ride on board. He's waiting to see. Does he shift down? Oh, he does. Oh, and it's right as he re-engages the truck. I'm not sure why he had it off, what the scenario was for that, but for whatever reason that he had it turned off here, you can see it's only at 300 RPMs here. I think he just shut it off and was probably letting it coast. Unless he had some sort of issue. I would assume that's what it is here. But whatever the issue was, yeah, so he currently doesn't have it engaged. He's just letting it roll. Still letting it roll. Field catches up. But then when he re-engages it right here, it's just going to spin out on him. Right there, and here comes Brandon Cooper. I mean, he's not expecting a 20 to spin. Nowhere to go. He makes contact. James Harris has got to be going, what in the world is happening? He sneaks by. No damage there. I don't think Brandon Cooper's going to be too happy. And that is now changed up who we have up front. Cooper, though, still up here. Noah Jackson only fell back to 3rd. Let's try this again. First restart of the night. Green flag back in the air. 29 of 85 laps complete at Darlington. Let's see if they're a little bit more aggressive this time. Toby Ritter's great restart. Got clear there as they got into the corner. Not much 2x2, but it looks like Brian Lorenzo, currently side by side, has some contact into the wall right there for John Legger. That's going to cause a check up a few trucks back. Bryce Rayner, by the way, up to 8th. He's got to make quick work of some of these trucks on this restart. Meanwhile, Brandon Cooper maybe looking for a challenge for the lead here down the front stretch. And he's not going to make that dive into turn 2. By the way, you notice that striped white line. Drivers can go below that if they want. No out of bounds here. But again, not as much banking down there. So still seeing everybody single file here. You got to use the fresh tires while you got them here. Again, only 2 sets. And this is one of them being used, I would assume, right here. Can't see any reason somebody wouldn't take tires. Tyler Meeks, though, making quite a bit of moves here with this restart. He's got himself now inside the top 5. So as we go back, Bryce Rayner still not been able to get around the 5 of Ryan Lorenzo. So he continues to watch the lead group try to pull away as Meeks a little bit low off the corner there. He's going to cover any move as now Brandon Cooper setting him up for the corner to pass. 54's got the inside here. Noah Jackson with a run out back, but can't Cooper get clear here down the front stretch? Oh boy, and here we go. They're side by side. Someone's going to have to give here. Cooper will. He'll duck back in line just in front of the 20. This is great racing at Darlington. Further back, Meeks got a little high right there. 31 of Harley Barletta closed up, but there was no move to be made. Now Noah Jackson's got to run. Will he try to take a peek on Brandon Cooper into turn 3? No. He's going to stay conservative here, see if he can let these top 2 race for it before he tries to pounce. Cooper with another big run. Watch out. Man, that was tight between him and Toby Ritters. I thought there was going to be some contact right there. And Toby Ritters right now has got to be driving out of his mirror. The 54 is right on his back bumper. And you can see how they're able to get just a little bit lower on exit of the corner. It's getting a little bit of a better run here. Noah Jackson ducked out of line again there. Thought about a move on the 54, but he can't quite do it. And I think right now, if you're Brandon Cooper and Noah Jackson, you might need to work together here a little bit. You don't want to let this 3 truck of Toby Ritters get too far out in front. And watch out here. Harley Barletta going to try the dangerous move of making that move into the corner. Tyler Meeks in the wall. Oh, man, he's trying to save it. It looks like he does. That's why usually you don't see guys go 2x2 down into turn 1 and 2. It just doesn't work. And that time it's Tyler Meeks getting the bad end of the stick. Here we go. Noah Jackson going to try the inside here on Brandon Cooper. It's got to get clear by the exit, though. Not quite able to do it. And off the corner now, the 54 gets a little bit of a run. And they're going to do the same thing that Barletta and Meeks just did. How's this going to work? Oh, Jackson up the track. The 54, Cooper had to lift. He saw how that was going to play out and got out of the throttle to avoid an accident. Continue to see a few more dangerous slide jobs here being pulled through turn 1 and 2. This 87 of Bryce Rayner, he will now get around the 5 of Lorenzo. And so that puts Bryce Rayner now just 1 spot outside of the top 5 as he'll try to go track down these lead 6 trucks. By the way, Charles Whitehead being scored 3 laps down. Chris Logan 2 laps down, so those 2 the only trucks that have fallen off the lead lap so far here tonight. Here we go, move for the lead. Noah Jackson, he led them all on that first run. He's trying to get back around for the lead here. Toby Ritters on the outside, though. Enough momentum that he'll stay out in front this time. If you're Jackson, there's 2 things you're keeping an eye on here. One of them is that 87 of Bryce Rayner. You're wondering if he saves some tire and what he'll be able to do here on the long run. Also, you want to get around this 3 truck as soon as you can. He's got another run here, but he's not going to be able to make it happen. The longer you get stuck behind a guy that you feel faster than, the more you wear your tires out trying to pass. So Jackson going to regroup here. He'll try to set up the 3 of Toby Ritters again here down the front stretch. Again, I mean, it's a 4-corner track, but really feels like you only get the opportunity to pass on about half of the racetrack, and that is from the back stretch all the way to right about out of turn 4. But 1 and 2 is just so single file, and it's been that way most of tonight. We've seen a couple of daring passes through it, but hasn't necessarily worked out the best in a few of those cases. So Toby Ritters continues to defend out in front as we are now just about a handful of laps away from the halfway point here in the Darlington 116. I was looking back here for Jason Ethery involved in that first incident, currently in 8th. Good recovery for him. He's still up 4 spots on the night from where he qualified at. And currently kind of on an island by himself, as is George Young. And you've got Wesley Shaw in the 52 currently sitting back in 10th. John Legger 11th, Tyler Meeks in 12th. Then Chris Logan and Charles Whitehead, again, not on the lead lap at the moment. Well, we mentioned these 2 earlier in the run-ins that they had last week. You wondered if they had any hard feelings towards each other here tonight. Well, we may be getting ready to find out. The 55 of Harris starting to heat up the back bumper of Brandon Cooper. And I would say I think that they've pretty much gotten over it, especially James Harris, if you think about the fact that he knows what he's fighting for. I don't think Brandon Cooper really was necessarily mad at these guys. I think he just felt like, listen, I'm trying to win. I think James Harris is looking at it as, you know what, I'm fighting for a championship, so you need to obviously give us a little bit more slack. And again, for James Harris, I don't see how he could hold any hard feelings because he knows he's got his eyes on the prize. He doesn't want to get into it with the 54. He wants to take home that trophy, claiming he is the season champion. And with it being the last season of the trucks, I think that makes it even more special for whoever's able to take home that championship. So for James Harris, let's see if he can cap that off next week at Atlanta. Bryce Rayner in that 5th spot still. Starting to inch closer, though, now to the 55. James Harris, in fact, pull up the time delta here between these two. And it overall has closed. The last couple laps not closed as much. Meanwhile, for your leader, another battle here. Oh, boy, who's going to lift? Toby Ritter's on the outside, and now he's going to get into the wall. Contact into the wall again. Cooper's got to get by. Harris has to lift. So does Bryce Rayner. That's exactly what you worry about happening. That is, I think, the 3rd time we've seen that tonight when a guy's trying to make a pass on the inside. Brandon Cooper lifted. He kind of anticipated it. Toby Ritter's tried to still make the corner work. Doesn't happen. And, boy, he loses 4 spots as a result. Still trying to get it together there off of turn 4. But what it does do is push Noah Jackson out to the lead. Ritter still trapped on that outside. Now Barletta gets into the outside wall. Still chaos back here towards the middle portions of the field. 5 of Lorenzo trying to capitalize on it here. Got around 1. Now he's going to look to get around 2. Going into turn 3. Barletta really working the outside. He's going to have some good momentum here if he can hold on. I think he'll get back clear down the front stretch, but no, he gets tight. That allows the 5 to stay even. Somebody's going to have to give right here. I think if you're Harley Barletta, you let him go. And he will. So Barletta lets the 5 of Brian Lorenzo go. We had a couple of close calls to see in our 2nd caution of the night, but everybody was able to keep it together. And that moves them all up a spot. Brandon Cooper now 2nd. James Harris now 3rd. And Bryce Rayner now in 4th. And so if you're Rayner, obviously your only chance here is to finish as far ahead of the 55 James Harris as you can. I think obviously for Rayner here, even if he wins the race, but Harris finishes in 3rd, you only really pick up 2 points on him. Not that significant, and 8 points to try to get next week, now knowing that it's Legacy Atlanta and not Super Speedway Atlanta. Well, I just think that might be a little bit too much of an ask, but obviously we'll have to wait to see. And so when they cross the line this time, it'll be 46 of 85 laps complete, so we are now well over the halfway point here in the Darlington 116. So with that, we are going to take our first break tonight. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us as Noah Jackson leads here at Darlington.
I played a couple of simulators and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
flag is in the air. We are racing.
3 by 3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. Hard into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway, the Darlington 116 for the Grindstone Developments Truck Series. Did want to show you this here before we go back to full screen. Proposed schedule for the late model series next season. We kick things off at USA International Speedway, New Smyrna. That's one of the big ones on there, as is the Nashville Fairgrounds. Martinsville, one of the Class 6 for late models. Also going to be headed to South Boston, but the big ones are really those last three. Harvick's Current Raceway, that's a bigger short track. Bristol, that's a very fast short track. And then Five Flags, home of the Snowball Derby to round things out for the championship. Boy, it is going to be another fun season. Now back live here on track at Darlington, 52 of 85 laps complete. So we are starting to close in here on 30 laps to go. No change of the lead while we were over break. Noah Jackson continues to lead Brandon Cooper, but not by much. Only 0.3 of a second, and even third and fourth. Not too far back either. James Harris, Bryce Rayner. And Rayner here right on the back bumper of Harris, but not making the move yet. I got to assume that he's trying to be very conservative with the tires here. Doesn't want to try to make that move too soon and potentially use up his stuff. Bryce Rayner, though, now going to go for it here. Big move to the inside off the corner. He's got some momentum here. Will he try to slide job into turn 3? He will, and James Harris lets him go. I think if you're Harris, you say, listen, I think if he's a little faster than me, he can have it. If he finishes 2 spots ahead of me, that does not affect my championship outcome. But boy, Bryce Rayner looked a whole ton of loose right there coming off of turn 4, excuse me. Other thing to note here, way out ahead of Bryce Rayner and even the 2 leaders just in front of him, some lap traffic. If they decide to stay on the racetrack, there's already not much room here at Darlington, so even if they're out of the way, they're still kind of going to be in the way. We'll see how that affects Noah Jackson, along with the 54 Brandon Cooper. I got to think for Jackson here, all of a sudden he's starting to see a little bit of dirty air, but it looks like Charles Whitehead going to pull off the racetrack. Chris Logan in the pits right here. I'm not sure if this is a scheduled stop for him or not, as that truck not moving at all. So not sure what the issue was. And by the way, we went back green with just under 30 laps to go. So as far as fuel mileage goes, I think it was probably pretty close for these guys. I'm not sure if they could quite make it on fuel. But I'm looking here, and we had a couple pit stops so far. Jason Ethery, Harley Barletta, the drivers who have made stops, but I'm not 100% sure here on the fuel window if these guys can make it all the way. Part of me almost thinks that they may still have a pit stop, but again, this track is under 1.5 miles, so they may be able to make it 55 laps. Something we'll keep tabs on here is Tyler Meeks, one of the great drivers in the series and one of the drivers who had a great season overall. Was up fighting for the championship at a few different points in the season. Still top 5 in point standings, but getting ready here to fall a lap down. So he will now add to the list, and it makes it only 9 trucks currently sitting on the lead lap. Meeks and Barletta 1 lap down, Whitehead 4 down, Chris Logan 5 down, and it looks like Jason Nethery is actually retired from the race. Tyler Meeks getting into the outside wall right there off of 2, but that did not change things much, at least for your front 3. Bryce Rayner is now starting to close up on the back bumper of Brandon Cooper. And Rayner also maybe a couple of hard feelings towards the 54 last week, but I think they have also settled things out. And so when we hit lap 61 rather, that's going to be 25 laps to go. Again, they go by pretty quick here at Darlington, one of the faster tracks we go to. And so Bryce Rayner, though, I got to think is actually feeling pretty good. That caution really saved him. He's been very methodically working his way back up here through the front half of the field. And now he's getting ready to see if he can maybe make something happen here on the 54, Brandon Cooper. You can see Cooper, the back end of the truck, just swaying around. Tells you how loose he is. Bryce Rayner still looks like the handling is pretty good. You got to think that he's done well so far managing those Goodyear tires. But even as they get through turn 1 and 2, it looks like Rayner decides to stay up a little bit later. That can work out right here. See on the exit of the corner? Gets just a little bit of a better run, and he's going to go for it. Looking to the inside here. This would be the battle for second. Bryce Rayner versus Brandon Cooper. Oh, Rayner up the track a little bit. Gets on the brakes, though, as he tries to arc it back down. And now almost a little bit of contact. A lot of hard racing between these two last week, and we're going to get it again now. Brandon Cooper, though, not going to be able to really do much here to defend. 54 has to let him go here into the corner. Not going to be able to cross him over either. Not really the way that the momentum works in that set of corners. So way out in front there, Noah Jackson. He likes all the battling he's seen as Brandon Cooper. Here we go, pit stop. And this is one of the toughest pit lanes of any of the tracks we go to, so you got to be really careful. You see Cooper hugging the inside. A little bit of drifting, but he makes it in, no problem. So that answers the question. Everybody gonna still need to make a pit stop. And Brandon Cooper just the first of them to do it with 25 laps to go. The call is going to be 4 tires and fuel for the driver of the number 54 Mountain Dew Toyota Tundra. And now that he's gone in, will that start to draw in a crowd? Not yet. Noah Jackson stays out. Looks like the rest of your top 5 do as well here. So Brandon Cooper is going to have the luxury of at least 1 lap fresher tires than your race leaders. We'll see how much that's able to help him out as Bryce Rayner stays out. Now trying to chase down your race leader, Noah Jackson. We'll get to really see the difference that tires make with some of the lap times that Brandon Cooper is able to run before these guys do eventually make that pit stop. I think if you're Noah Jackson out in front, you obviously try to make all these other guys pit before you. But at the same time, 24 laps to go. I don't know if I want to wait too long here. Again, you're going to see a big advantage for that 54 Brandon Cooper running on those fresher tires right now and running quicker lap times. It looks like Charles Whitehead now in the pits. This should be his final stop of the night. So it'll be 4 tires and fuel for him. Rayner continuing to try to chase. Will we see anybody dive down this time? We do not. I'm also curious to see if anybody tries to wait a little bit later in the corner before they jump down to the pit stop. See if they can gain some time on that 54 just from, again, the pit entry. And for Brandon Cooper right now, let's get a look at his lap times to do some comparison here. Cooper, let's see, this will be his first lap here on fresh tires that he was out of the pits. Let's see what he puts down right here. As he crosses the line, looks like it's going to be a 30.0. Compare that to the last lap of the leader, 31.9. That is almost 2 seconds worth of fall off. So I would say when things cycle out here, again, assuming that the leaders do indeed make that pit stop, Brandon Cooper is going to come out as your race leader. And then it's going to be a question of, can these guys chase him back down with the laps that we would have remaining? 21 to go right now. It'll be 20 as we cross the stripe next time. Noah Jackson continuing to lead the way. Bryce Rayner, though, still trying to close in this gap. You look at the time delta, they've kind of been swapping back and forth, but the last lap, Bryce Rayner did close it in a little bit. By the way, track conditions, track temps started in the low 90s. It has now made it to the upper 90s, but still not necessarily all that hot with at least some of the track temps that we've seen this season. Going now back to the 5th and 6th place positions. Here's Toby Ritters battling with one of the lap trucks. That was Harley Barletta, who's going to sneak by. Charles Whitehead will as well. Those two on fresher tires. How about Brian Lorenzo? Now up to that 4th spot. He's up 7 positions from where he started this race at tonight. So the 5 continues to run it quite well. Meanwhile, up front, battle for the lead here. Potentially shaping up. Bryce Rayner has really closed in now on the 20 of Noah Jackson. And we are officially under 20 laps to go here. So I think the desperation's got to start to set in here for the clean air. Who wants to have it, I think, is who's going to win this race. Bryce Rayner trying to apply the pressure, but you can tell he's really struggling in the wake of the 20. For Noah Jackson here, trying to play defense. He's looking in the mirror to see if he can run the same exact line Bryce Rayner is to take away any air off of the nose of that 87. For Noah Jackson and Bryce Rayner, again, still under the assumption that these two would need to make a pit stop. I don't really see what strategy Brandon Cooper would have done different that would have required him to pit. and these guys to not. But the only thing that has me questioning it is the fact that they are still out on the racetrack. I would think a pit stop would be in store here really soon. But here we go. Battle for the lead. Raynor's going to go for it here. Through 3 and 4, he got the run down the back stretch, but he's not going to be able to clear. Noah Jackson holds him honest. Big wiggle for both of them off exit. Raynor's going to stay side by side. Will Jackson lift? We've seen this be sketchy a few times, and looks like the answer is yes. Noah Jackson going to let him go just enough. But here we go, off of turn 2. Can Jackson try to make another move back on him? Does not look like it. Still no sign of pitting from these two. James Harris, by the way, sitting in third on an island by himself. And I think he just wants to see this race finish off under green. As Toby Ritter sits back in that 5th spot. George Young 6th. John Legger still with a good run for him tonight. Currently sitting in 7th. Wesley Shaw, good recovery after that earlier caution. He is in 8th. Brandon Cooper still 9th. Waiting to see if those guys up front are going to make that pit stop. Boy, if they do, I think it would really work out in the favor here of Brandon Cooper. But laps are starting to wind down. We're going to be 15 laps to go. Next time is pit stop. Noah Jackson, so here we go. This is going to answer that question. The leaders are going to pit. I just think they might have waited a little bit too long. Very curious to see how far out in front Brandon Cooper will be once this cycles out. For the 20 right here of Noah Jackson, got to assume the call would be 4 tires and fuel. As he makes his way down to his pit stop. It looks like he got a pretty good entry, though. Didn't see any major issues there, so I would assume he wouldn't lose much time. Can't afford to slide through the pit stall, though. It's got to be perfect. You only get one shot at it here. It is the money stop for Noah Jackson. He rolls in, and looks like he gets in without issue there. Bryce Rayner still out on the racetrack as we now see 14 laps to go here at Darlington. James Harris now in 2nd, just 1 spot behind the 87. And that's all he needs. Not going to be a win for James Harris, but it's going to feel pretty close to the equivalent of it because this is what he needs to do to keep himself out in front in terms of the championship standings. And Brandon Cooper here just now, Noah Jackson just now coming out of the pits as Brandon Cooper is already in turn 3, well up to speed. That's a significant gap, ladies and gentlemen. If we see the rest of the leaders make a pit stop, I think that Brandon Cooper will win this race. But if they don't, and I think we'll see the 87 of Bryce Rayner hang on. Going to be coming to 12 laps to go when they cross the front stretch next time. Really, you want to get to that white flag, obviously make the race official, but still very surprised to not see those front 2 pit just yet. Ryan Lorenzo 3rd, he has not pit. Neither has Toby Ritters, John Legger, George Young, or Wesley Shaw. Those guys all running in the top 7. Brandon Cooper currently in 8th. He did get himself back on the lead lap, though. Noah Jackson 9th. And you look at those two here, and we could probably get close enough to the gap. There's Brandon Cooper going into turn 1 now. Noah Jackson just going into turn 3. That tells you the difference that new tires made. So I am still in a little bit of a curveball here on what the strategy is for these front guys. Maybe they were saving a little bit earlier, and that's why we didn't see Rayner or Harris necessarily too aggressive, because they felt like saving a little bit, they could make it to the end. And I just think at this point, pitting would just cost you any shot at winning the race. I'd be really surprised to see it from Bryce Rayner or even from James Harris at this point. I think they might be committed to trying to make this thing work to the finish. And that would be over a 55-lap run here on fuel, which is quite impressive at that. So again, be very curious to see if they were saving a lot of fuel, just kind of hanging back, or if somehow they got on a different pit strategy that I just missed than everybody else. But it is officially now less than 10 laps to go. So just over 9.5 now for Bryce Rayner as he works down the back stretch. And boy, it's been 3 wins in a row, and that's about as dominant of a streak as you could be on. It'll be 4 in a row if he can get the job done here tonight. But it's always a weird feeling when you have this sort of points format, because 4 wins, he might go out and make it 5 wins next week. Who knows? That would be over 2 or 3. I think that's going to be 3 or 4 wins more than what James Harris had this season, and yet he would not come home crowned a champion. That's the way it works. That's why you got to be consistent. Yeah, James Harris 2 wins on the season. So if Rayner wins tonight, he will have double the wins that James Harris has this season, yet he will not be beating him in points. at least at the end of this race. And by the way, the gap between first and second, 6 seconds. So if you're Bryce Rayner, no pressure out back, nothing to worry about, at least on that front. Now for Brandon Cooper here, 22 seconds back. He is making up significant time, but obviously nowhere near enough to catch the leaders here without a caution or the leaders making that pit stop. But again, I already said it, and I'll say it again. We're coming to 7 to go. I now all of a sudden don't think that these front two are pitting. When I saw the 54 and the 20 make those stops, I thought that was a guarantee that everybody else was going to have to. But again, there was some sort of strategy that played out here because Bryce Rayner and James Harris have stayed out since we got the green on that restart. Boy, whatever that strategy call was, it seems to have been the right one. Almost 6.5 seconds now, the gap between first and second. And how about Brian Lorenzo looking to grab a podium in his first race in the Grindstone Developments Truck Series? Now, he's going to have to work for it here on these last handful or so because Toby Ritter's going to be applying the pressure here from that 4th position. Brandon Cooper trying to close up as well, although I don't think he's going to even get to that 3rd spot, being about 12 seconds back from there at the moment. Noah Jackson, by the way, still being scored a lap down, so he may have had some sort of troubles through the pit stop, whether he just got in a little slower than it looked or something else that we missed on pit exit, because he certainly lost, I know it was a lot of time, but it was even a lot more than we were expecting, as he'll now finally get back on the lead lap as he goes by the 87 of Bryce Rayner. And Rayner will now officially see just a handful of laps to go here at Darlington. 4 more to go before he sees that ever-important white flag to make this race official.
All right, man.
Caution! Oh, man! And Bryce Rayner, you see the smile. He can't believe it. James Harris as well was in perfect position. And a caution with one of the drivers that was running top 3. It's Brian Lorenzo. Loops it off of 4. Him and Toby Ritters were racing hard. And oh my goodness, it is going to be chaos now. We are going to have overtime here at Darlington. Well, if you wanted excitement, oh boy, you are about to get it. But let's go back and see what happened here to Lorenzo and Toby Ritters. Looks like from that view, Ritters ran him high. But let's go back and look a little bit further back here. Go to the chopper view as they get into the corner. Ritters got a good run here, and I think this starts back off of turn 2. Boy, these guys actually get side by side in the middle of turn 1 and 2. Ritters gets to the inside. A little bit of contact there off the corner. Lorenzo gets into the wall from that contact. And then as they're going down the back stretch into 3, Ritters tries to ship it in to get clear, but just not enough. The 5's already up in the wall. Ritters is just running him into the wall here. And that's just tight racing. I mean, I said Ritters was running him up into the wall. They may not have been running cut. It was close. Either way, the 5's got no more room up here. He really can't go any higher. Toby Ritter's obviously fighting for everything he can at this point in the race. But then as they get on the exit here, I think Ritter's not sure if he thought he just was clear or was just a little bit too tight, but he gets back into the 5, and when he does right there, that gets him a little bit loose and some more contact off the corner. That's the one that ultimately does it. 3 gets into the outside wall, and the 5 goes for a slide towards the inside wall. So Toby Ritter's here. Let's see what this looked like from his cockpit view. As this all played out here from the middle of the corner forward. So gets into the corner, and there's again a little bit of contact. You see it right there. And then a little bit more contact, and as they get off the corner, there's not enough room for both trucks. I think Ritter's, I don't think either one of them really got bad damage, but Ritter's certainly getting the worst of it as well. I take that back. Significant crumple there on the right front could certainly impact the performance of his truck, but as we now turn our attention back live, Ritter's in the pits, and so it looks like that's going to hand the lead over to the 54 of Brandon Cooper. Noah Jackson 2nd, Bryce Rayner 3rd, James Harris 4th, Toby Ritter's 5th, John Legger 6th, George Young 7th, Ryan Lorenzo 8th, Wesley Shaw 9th, and Tyler Meeks rounding out the top 10. Now, I do want to go check on the pit stop here to see, did the leaders go in? If they did, that could be a huge ordeal. Yes. So they did. They went into pit. And the reason this is interesting is because you're going to now have guys up in front that are on a little bit older tires, guys out back on fresher tires, but it's only 2 laps. So I think with that in mind, if you're Brandon Cooper, Noah Jackson, you're going to be aggressive here because you know there's a tire advantage behind you, but you've only got to try to hold them off here for 2 laps. We'll see if they're able to do it. And if we make it to the white flag, by the way, this race will be official. If they wreck on the first lap and we get a caution, we'll rack them up and try it once more. Late race drama here at Darlington. Did not have this in the cards, especially with the way things were playing out there when we were coming to 5 laps to go. But that is how quick things can change. Cooper and Jackson not fighting for a championship, but fighting for the trophy. Bryce Rayner, James Harris fighting for the championship. Who is going to get the win here tonight? And will we see another caution? Back into the restart zone. Brandon Cooper hits the loud pedal. Green flag back in the air. 2 laps to go at Darlington. Great restart for the front 2 along with Bryce Rayner. Harris got caught sleeping just a little bit. Oh, Rayner's going to lose it. Bryce Rayner loses it. He's going to save it, but the caution does come out. And that was just the 99 trying to get after it a little bit too much on cold tires. 87, excuse me. Bryce Rayner might be okay. I know he slid those tires, but we'll see how much track position it takes away from him. May not be done kicking yet. And for the first time, I believe this whole season, we are going to head into our second and final green-white checkered attempt. Let's go back and look at this one here. Pretty cut and dry incident here. No contact out back, no contact in front. Bryce Rayner just really trying to get after it into the corner here. He knows what he's got with those fresh tires, but just a little wiggle, and it goes around on him. Boy, James Harris, great heads-up driving right there to get around. I thought for sure when I saw the 87 whip sideways in front of the 55 that it was going to clean them both out. Not the case. Let's take a couple onboard views, though, here. This is going to be Bryce Rayner. We'll watch the truck here as he gets into the corner. Just watch. You'll see it wiggle and then jump out on him. And I think that correction hurt him. Tried to maybe make just a little bit too much of a correction, but it's so easy to do here. The other view we got to look at here is for James Harris. 55. Boy, this had to make his heart skip a beat right here as he's watching these front 3, and when he saw that wiggle, he was probably thinking, oh man, this might be race over, but he gets on the brakes. Rayner spins low. He's able to just barely avoid him on the high side. Another look here. This is going to be from TV3. Actually, here, we're going to go back to TV2 on this. Give you one more look at this before we go back live for Bryce Rayner. Here's that spin. And look at that. Still has the foot on the throttle. James Harris able to sneak by on the high side. And what a save overall. I mean, it drew the caution, which is best case scenario for Bryce because it allows him to at least keep some track position. But still a heck of a save nonetheless. So we're going to rack him up here and try it again. It'll be 2 laps to go once again. Noah Jackson is your race leader. Brandon Cooper second, Harris third. George Young now with a big opportunity for a great finish for him as he is now up to the 4th spot. So he will start on the outside of row 2. And we are going to see here if we can maybe bring up one of your race leaders here for just a moment, if we have any of them. And it looks like we don't. So we will hold things there for now. As do the lights go off on the pace car? Yes, they do. So we will rack them up here and go back green next lap. By the way, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You're watching Overtime for the Grindstone Developments Truck Series here at Darlington Raceway. By the way, next place that we will be here on PGR eSports is on Thursday night, back for the PGR eSports Intimidator Super Speedway Series. So looking forward to that. The lights off on the pace car here. Brandon Cooper, Noah Jackson, I mean, same thing on that last restart. And, you know, really, I didn't think about that part, but with these guys being on cold tires and that being a problem here at Darlington, they kind of still have a little bit of an advantage here. Excuse me, on the restart, because even though their tires are more worn out, they don't have to baby it as much because their tires are still warmed up. James Harris, the driver on cold tires, so he'll have to be careful as he goes in to turn 1 and 2 side by side with the 48 of George Young. And don't count out John Legger or Bryce Rayner back in row 3. They may have an opportunity here as well. All right, here we go. Final time tonight that we will see a restart here at Darlington. Who's going to win the Darlington 116? Green flag back in the air. 2 laps to go at Darlington. Brandon Cooper quick to single file out here with Noah Jackson further back. James Harris going to dive it off into the corner here, trying to get clear the 48 of George Young. He'll do just that. Bryce Rayner going to get to the inside. He knows he's got to claw for some position. Single file for the front 3 off of turn 2. A little bit of slipping and sliding out back, but everybody's still clean. For Brandon Cooper here, a little slow through the corner. Harris going to look to get a run up top. Now he's got to try to cross him over. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go at Darlington. Now Rayner going to draw side by side with the 55 of James Harris. Oh, a little bit of contact. The 54 going to almost get up into the outside wall. Rayner does get into the wall. They continue to battle here for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Now more contact. Big block from the 54. Rayner with some contact out back. James Harris, though, going to play it patient. No, now he gets into the 54. Some contact there. It won't matter, though, for this man up front. Noah Jackson comes home a winner this season at Darlington. James Harris is going to take 2nd. You saw the contact. Brandon Cooper finishes 3rd. Lorenzo back in 4th. And boy, was that a crazy one. Finish it off here at Darlington. What a win, though, by Noah Jackson. Don't want to discount it. Normally, we'd have the cameras up front, more so on the entirety of the last lap, but there was just way too much action happening in the battle for 2nd and 4th. We had to keep cameras on it. But Noah Jackson, fantastic win, and what a track to do it at. One of the crown jewels. So he's going to bring it around and celebrate as a first-time winner this season. That's a pretty good burnout, too. We don't commentate too much on the burnouts, but that's a pretty good one there for Noah Jackson. I think we're going to be seeing some more of those from him in the near future. And so as he continues to celebrate, first thing I want to do here is take a look at your official results here tonight. Noah Jackson, again, is your race winner of the Darlington 116. James Harris takes home 2nd, Brandon Cooper 3rd, Brian Lorenzo 4th, and with Bryce Rayner finishing in 5th, I would say that that is realistically going to all but eliminate his chances of taking the championship next week from James Harris. George Young finishes back in 6th, John Lager 7th, Wesley Shaw back in 8th. It's going to be Toby Ritters taking home 9th, and Harley Barletta rounds out the top 10. Back in 11th, Tyler Meeks. Charles Whitehead finishes 12th with Chris Logan 13th, and Jason Nethery in 14th. All right, let's go back here before we grab your top 3 for interviews, and let's just watch this white flag. Really, again, Noah Jackson, it was out in front. He didn't have all too much chaos going on. It was from about James Harris on back that all heck broke loose. So this is as they grab the white going into turn 1 and 2. Rayner actually gets up into the wall. He was trying to carry a lot of momentum and just gets a little too much, too high. James Harris right there, not able to make much work, but he stays close with the 54. He's got fresh tires, and as they get off the corner here, I can't tell if that's a block from Brandon Cooper or if he's just loose. Either way, I don't think Harris likes it too much as they get into 3. Harris roughs him up and says, yeah, I've had enough. I got fresher tires. I'm going by. Gets him up the track and Cooper into the wall. Harris goes by. That's all there is to it on that sense. And I'll tell you what, Harris may have done it because he was a little frustrated, but it really wasn't that dirty if you look at it. I mean, gives him a square shot in the corner, gets him out of the groove. It's not like he wrecks him or fences him and holds him up there. It just, again, gives him a little shot out of the groove and sneaks by for a very, very ensuring 2nd place finish that should all but ensure the championship for that 55 truck. All right, we are going to go grab your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back here at Darlington. All right, going to kick things off here tonight first with your race winner, the 20 truck of Noah Jackson. Jackson, this is Austin up in the booth. Got a copy. We will try him again here. And I see why he can't hear me, so give me just a moment here. We'll get this set up. Hey, Noah, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, but what's up?
Well, man, you get the job done here tonight. First win of the season for you. And, boy, it happens in thrilling fashion. Back at Kentucky, strategy took it away from you. Here tonight, you got a second chance with the late caution, and you take advantage of it. Tell us about those last 2 laps and what was going through your mind there coming to the checkered.
Well, I honestly knew if it was going to stay green, I was like, I'm not going to be able to get all the way around and get to Bryce because he was fast. He saved more tires than I did. But whenever I seen that caution came out, I was like, okay, the track ain't got no sun on it. It's it's got a bunch of cloud cover on it, so it's cooled down and it's going to help cool the tires down. So I said, whenever they pit, I got to get to the front and hopefully stay up there. And that's what happened, and we brought it home.
Yeah, you certainly did bring it home, and boy, it's got to feel pretty good. I know you're not chasing a championship this season, but with the way things went at Kentucky, you get redemption here tonight, and does it feel a little bit more special knowing it's one of the crown jewel racetracks?
Yeah, it does feel real good to get a win at a crown jewel track, and I've always loved this track. Even it doesn't matter if it's the trucks, Xfinity, or the Cup cars. I love the way that this place races.
Absolutely. Well, Noah, it was a fantastic win for you here tonight. So before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just my beautiful fiance for letting me do this, and everybody at Whitehead Racing and everybody that's on this Chevy Silverado. We really appreciate it, and we're gonna try to be back soon and get some more wins.
Absolutely. Well, Noah, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the race win, and we will hopefully see you again next week.
Thank you, bud.
All right, that is now going to bring us to your second place finisher here tonight, the number 55, James Harris. James, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, man, you bring home second tonight. That's back-to-back weeks where it has been chaos at the end, one way or another. Tonight, it's 2 overtime finishes to decide it. Tell us about your battle there with the 87 and the 54 on the white flag.
Man, I had fresher tires, obviously, because they were out, and I was obviously faster than the 54 there, and he was putting on some blocks, but that's just what he does. I'm used to that. I think if I could have got around him quicker, I probably could have had something for Noah there, but Noah put on a good race tonight, so congrats to him.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking at it here, and obviously the big storyline for you at the end of this race is you finish 3 spots ahead of Bryce Rayner. Well, we talked about in the broadcast what Bryce was going to have to do to catch you in points. Now that you just got those extra 3 points on him, do you feel like you've basically wrapped up the championship going into next weekend or next week?
I feel really confident now. We got a 13-point lead. Like I said last week, when it comes to the end of these seasons with these leagues, the attendance usually drops some. We had 14 people tonight, so if it's about the same next week, I just got to, race safe and not do anything dumb to shoot myself in the foot. And we should finally have what I think is probably our 4th championship in this league. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it would be a phenomenal championship to get to round out the Truck Series at that. But as for tonight, James, before we let you head out to celebrate a good podium finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yes, sir. I'm going to thank my wife, Courtney, for her support, my son, Cooper. Congrats to him. He just got gifted and talented in school. Texar Federal Credit Union, that's where my wife works. They were our sponsor for a few races this season. I'm glad we got a good finish for them. Kevin Kirster, Blackstone Magic, Grindstone Developers, Champion Power Equipment. And that should do it for tonight.
Absolutely. Well, James, we'll see you next week, potentially hoisting that championship trophy. Thanks for talking to us. We'll see you next week at Atlanta.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right, now that's going to bring us to your third and final podium finisher of the night, and that is the 54 of Brandon Cooper. Brandon, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Copy.
Well, I'll tell you what, pretty much same storyline for you as the 55. 2 weeks, 2 crazy finishes at the end. And for you here tonight, big thing was the second overtime finish. It looked like you were going to be able to hold on to second, but then things got a little bit aggressive. Tell us about your battle with Harrison Rayner there on the white flag lap.
Man, so I'm racing for second place. I knew I wasn't going to get first place. I was racing for second. I am accused of throwing a bad block. I was just racing as hard as I could. My truck was getting loose off the corners. Like, it took everything I had to keep that thing under control. Did not want to throw bad blocks. It just ended up being that way. But he ended up bumping me there. I don't want to say it won't be returned in the future, but he said he'll bump me if he has to, so I guess I'll have to bump him too. But just trying to race for second there, couldn't really hold off, man, and we ended up with a P3 finish.
Yeah, still a good finish nonetheless, and obviously Darlington, a very tough track. Now, next week, we go to Legacy Atlanta. Very similar in the sense of you got to manage your tires quite well. Do you feel confident that you can end the season with a win next week?
I'm very, very, very confident. I love Old Atlanta. If we can save tires like we did tonight, not towards the end of runs, but I think I saved pretty well. I think we'll have a really good shot next week. Like I said, I'm pretty good at that track, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you talking to us. So before we let you head out tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Just want to thank Whitehead Racing, good group of guys over there. And I'm not running a paint for him this week, but shout out to Matt Meltler, Redline Racing. Thank you to him. He's sponsoring one of my cars. I think he should get a shout out. No, I think that's it.
Yeah, and Matt, one of our fellow broadcasting partners, so yeah, absolutely giving him a shout out. And I'll tell you what, third place finish for you here tonight, Brandon. 2 spots short, but we'll see if you can get the win next week. Thanks for talking to us.
See you, man.
All right, there you go. Well, that is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Darlington Raceway, and it was an overall pretty tame race, but a chaotic finish. It's Noah Jackson who gets his first win of the season in the 20 truck. We'll be back next week one more time for the championship at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Looking forward to that. As for tonight, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, have a good night.